This program is financially supported by the fundings from the European Commission.
You are listening to the EBU Access Cast, the official podcast from the European Blind Union about assistive technology for blind and partially sighted people. And here is our host.
Welcome everyone, this is the 34th episode of the EBU Access Cast, the podcast of the European Blind Union on the latest and greatest in assistive technology for blind and partially sighted people. This is Paweł hosting this episode. Hey, hello everyone, I'm not alone here. As always, we have our usual suspects. Tanya from Luxembourg, Tanya Cloud, hello.
Hello, Paweł.
Hello, and Mario Percinic, also from Luxembourg. Hello, Mario.
Hey there, how is it going?
Great, thanks. It's a holiday as we record, so who can complain about a holiday, right?
No?
Yeah, no, not at all. And Hlynur Knarsson from Iceland, hello.
Hey there, pleasure to be here.
Yep, and so am I. So, what do we have for you today? Actually a lot from these big companies that we mention all the time. There is always something from Microsoft, Apple and Google. I think it's already a fixed point on our agenda, sort of. But not always. But this time we start with Microsoft, and there is plenty to talk about, of course, because of Windows 11. What Microsoft surprised us with, I guess, is this adaptive kit for the Surface adaptive kit. We'll tell you what that is about and how this can help blind people using their products. We'll also discuss the currently beta tested feature of running Android apps on Windows 11. How useful is that really? And some of us have actually tested the system, so we'll also talk about this. Is Windows 11 accessible? Well, let's find out. This is not just the software and hardware that Microsoft is surprising us with. They are also hosting their webinars on the accessibility of Windows 11. Hopefully you can catch that too. Then on to other events. NVDA Con is expected to launch in the first weekend of December, and also SideTech Global TechCrunch's conference and event on advances in artificial intelligence for the blind, for the benefit of the blind. This will also be covered by us right now. Then moving on to what Apple is up to, and of course we could tell you all about the updates that they released and the new macOS versions and some new hardware. But I think it's more interesting to talk about in which ways they have recently made themselves not so much of a good fame with blind people, and there are a couple of reasons for that. Then we'll jump on to what Google has in store for us. On one hand, there is a new Talkback update that we again had no official changelog from, but nevertheless, we know now what's changed. And also YouTube. Google told us that they are introducing some new audio features for accessibility. Could we finally see audio description coming? Do I hear alternative audio tracks? Not yet, but they will arrive eventually. And then also, with Vispero is out with a brand new JAWS update, JAWS 2022, and also other of their products, the Fusion, for example. And to top it all off, Mastercard is coming out with a brand new card design that is supposed to help blind people identify their cards. Also, as the last but not least, we'll talk about the latest campaign from UserWay, where the actress behind the Siri voice is campaigning for more accessibility by using an accessibility overlay, sadly. All of that in the newest EBU Access Cast. At the end, we'll also hear from Hlynur and his friends in Iceland who have an interesting solution to tabletop gaming. I haven't played a tabletop game in a while. I'm really curious about this. And yeah, that's it for today on our schedule. But of course, we wouldn't be a proper EBU Access Cast if we didn't present you with some gadgets. Anyone? Gadgets this time?
Not
Well, I think it's you.
Again?
Inspector Gadget. Come on, you have to prove your Inspector Gadget.
Okay, I have to
Status,
prove
you know?
my Inspector Gadget status.
You have to
Okay.
renew your certificate.
Every 6 weeks, come on. Good, it's for free. And I'm also coming with something for free, because I didn't buy anything, unfortunately, but I tested some things, and I found an interesting browser extension for Chromium-based browsers for now, called Teleparty. If you go to teleparty.com, you can check it out. This extension allows you to host a Netflix watching party with amount of people of your choice. And you do this by installing the extension and hosting a party. By hosting a party, I mean you generate a link. You send this link across to all the people who should watch with you. And all these people click on the link. Of course, all of you need to have your own Netflix accounts. This is not any kind of trick to get Netflix for free or any kind of other streaming service. But you all log into your Netflixes, or I think there is also Hulu, but Hulu is not much of a thing in Europe.
No.
And there you will watch whatever the person chose, the host chose to watch, in synchronized mode. So the host has generally the control over everything. If they start, you start. If they pause, you pause. They can also decide if you can pause, or you can rewind, fast forward, and manage the video in general, but this is a decision of the host. And the best news about it is, and I tested this actually, you can, each of you, pick your own audio and subtitling settings. So what happened to me was we were watching some movie with my mom. I'm in Austria, she's in Poland, so it's a bit more difficult to watch things together now. And we managed to get to the point where she was watching the movie in Polish with dubbing. And I was watching it here in English with audio description. And this was such an amazing feeling because, well, usually, even if you watch at home with somebody, you have to somehow agree on a compromise. Does everyone have to listen to audio description, even though it's sometimes annoying to them? Or do you somehow sacrifice this audio description and you maybe ask the sighted people that you watch with to describe something to you if you don't understand what's going on, for example? Or how do you else manage this? And Apple is coming out with the SharePlay now, which allows you to watch things also via FaceTime. And also everyone is supposed to be able to pick up their own settings. And Netflix, as of yet, is not on board. But, well, there is a solution there for Netflix and for non-Apple users. So I think it's the best of two worlds, and I hope I somehow made your Netflix binging sessions with friends better, more accessible. Sadly, some news are appearing that Netflix is trying to prevent this kind of extensions working. They're officially saying they're trying to somehow prevent external scripts, messing with the video and some other illegal tricks. But it might happen that this kind of extensions will stop working at some point. Hopefully fixes will be provided or workarounds will be found. Or hopefully Netflix finally introduces this natively, because, I mean, this is, especially in times of COVID, such a important feature to have, that you can watch this together with people you cannot meet normally. So, yeah. Crossing my fingers that Netflix will realize how important this is. In the meantime, enjoy your Teleparty. And that is my gadget for today.
Yeah, instead of watching the movie with your mom, I would suggest to host a Tinder watching party, Pavel.
What is with you teasing me about Tinder?
yeah, man.
I don't know why, but okay. I guess I have to live with that. Maybe in some future podcast anywhere, somewhere, we'll discuss dating problems of blind people.
That's a good topic for Christmas.
Yeah. Definitely.
Accessibility in the news.
So, starting with Windows. Microsoft has introduced, and I don't think anybody expected this, but it's good that it's there. And also at the beginning, I thought, how would I use this? The Surface Adaptive Kit, which is a set of tools, of items you can apply on different parts of your Surface hardware that help you in identifying different parts of the computer, tablet, call it as you wish. I think it's both in one. In some cases, to identify the keys on the keyboard, to identify the different ports and cables, also to help you lift some of the lids on the device. And I read about it, and I think it's quite interesting. I don't remember how the Surface looks like, but I guess it's a bit smaller than usual laptops, and maybe because of this, it's a bit harder to identify some items. I think, Tanya, you read more into this?
Yes, and actually I received in the last days computer for testing, and it is a Surface. So I confirm it is a smaller, and since it is not my first computer, it is more difficult for me to be efficient and to find quickly where are the right F keys or which key to use in combination with the FN if you would like to, I don't know, increase, decrease the volume. So, of course, we can get used to that. But if it is not your primary machine, something like this would be helpful to enhance the accessibility of the hardware. But at the same time, I was thinking, okay, since they are thinking about accessibility, why they wouldn't put this by default and not having a hardware that doesn't have a small space between the F keys, like 4 blocks, but you have to put a tactile symbol on it or tactile tool, whatever. So it's good that it's there, but also why we should adapt, why it's not by default accessible.
Do you think they can still do it even though the size is so small? Like, is it technically viable to still?
I think so. Well, you know that on the F and J we have this small tactile thing. So I think it will be possible in one way or the other. Of course, in a small space, you cannot have a standard PC keyboard, but I think they could do a bit more accessible if you're blind and relying only on the touch.
Yeah, you're right. The good thing they do about it is that they provide really clear and concise instructions on how to apply everything and where you find each item in the box. So I think it's very well explained. And I don't find myself very handy with handiworks, but I guess I could be able to follow these instructions. I'm quite curious now, but good from Microsoft that they thought about this, because we'll be getting back to this when we discuss Mastercard. But I think when we think of accessibility, it's quite a lot on the software side. We talk about digital accessibility a lot, and we see a lot of success in software side. So when somebody made an app more accessible, or a website, or made some solution more accessible on the software, but not so much in the hardware spectrum. And this is also quite important, like proper labeling of buttons, also on elevators, for example, and clear labeling of keys. Like, this is something that often goes in the missing. And I don't think it should be, because it's as important as making your software experience accessible. So it's good that Microsoft thought about this.
Yeah, I agree with Tanya that it's might be disappointing that it's not like standard yet, but this might also be a small step in the right direction.
Yeah, sure. The thing is that basically what we are seeing here is the fact that the Surfaces didn't come out yesterday. They are around for a while. So the fact that Microsoft came out with this toolkit is, the situation where you have something already out and you need to somehow adapt it to the people with disabilities. I would agree that, for example, if they come up, and they probably will come out with some newer Surfaces, that these kind of things should be included on the fly already.
Yeah, this is interesting, because I think this adaptive kit came out in the same conference as the new Surface hardware. So it's interesting, like, what kind of choices were made in the design of this. If clearly the thought was there, but the execution not so much. Yeah. And it's bolting on accessibility on an already existing product. Well, let's hope that the choices will be better next time around. Next year. We'll see. But that's not the only accessibility news from Microsoft. As I said before already, we also find out now, and it was already teased in a way when the first betas of Windows 11 were coming out, that the current beta testers have access to Android apps running on Windows 11. And I read a little bit about this. There is some good news, there is some less good news, let's say. So let's start with the good news. The good news is that there is a screen reader in this experience. Once you enter an Android app run this way, you can press Ctrl Windows T, and the screen reader will come up, and you can navigate these apps.
I wonder how you can press Control Windows T with one hand. If you have only one control key. For example, I have one control key on my computer.
On the right side?
No, on the left.
On the left?
Control Windows C. I think I can do it with one hand.
Yeah, I can.
I'm just trying.
I'm a pianist, so it's no problem for me.
And I'm using this Twitter clients and like invisible interfaces for a while, so shortcuts like Control Windows Shift Alt N, no problem. But
yeah, well, okay.
Yeah,
but it would be logical to have the same shortcut as in Windows. Why not? Or
I don't know. Might T be hinting at Talkback somehow?
Maybe. Yes.
Yes, but
maybe. Yeah.
Whatever.
Maybe it was somehow, I don't know, difficult with the infrastructure, because this Android experience is a virtual machine, in fact, of Android running inside Windows.
Mm-hmm.
It's an optimized virtual machine, but nevertheless, if you want to have this running, you need to turn on virtualization in your Windows settings. So it's not the very native Windows experience, but yeah, it's apparently very well optimized. It runs quite smoothly. I have to be basing my opinion now on the posts on the audio games forums, because I'm currently not able to test this, but somebody did, and they said it's very snappy. It's the fastest experience they have seen of the sort. And here comes the less good news, or a couple, because first of all, for the time being, if you want this to run, at least officially, if you want to download the Android experience from the Microsoft Play Store, from the Microsoft App Store, equivalent Microsoft Store, you need to actually have set your locale to the US. So you can't use your whatever locale of choice. You need to be on the US, and also you need a US Amazon account, because Microsoft has partnered with Amazon, and you can only install, officially at least, the Amazon store, and you can download the apps from there, which are not very many, from what I heard. I saw somewhere the number being 50. I didn't expect it being so little, but well, that's what we have.
I don't understand why they didn't go with the Google. But okay.
Politics, I guess.
Well,
at some point, some paths didn't meet, and well, there you go. Yeah, I also think it's quite detrimental, because an average user will not make much use out of this.
No.
A user who knows their stuff, they will probably find out how to sideload apps. There is even a way around, I already found out somewhere, to install Google Play services on this, because even if you don't have the Google Play Store, but you will want to install like everyday apps that you use, you might run into problem with running them, because they will rely on Google services. And if you don't have Google services, you can't really run these apps unless you find some unofficial version where this requirement is lifted. But yeah, for everyday use, this is very, very tricky and very difficult to use. Hopefully, Microsoft will somehow come to terms with Google at some point. They will realize this is not very useful for a lot of people. Maybe for developers. Somebody mentioned developers and video gamers on the forum where I browsed. So maybe these target groups, yes. But other than this, if I, for example, would like to order my Uber from the PC because I'm at the PC and it's just more comfortable for me at the moment, this will probably not happen. Sad but true. But yes, they thought of accessibility, and it's the thought that counts also in this scenario, that the screen reader is there. According to this user who tested this, it's a modification of Talkback. And the problem is that, for example, the default keyboard shortcuts for things like global context menus and things, they are not configured. So you have to configure some of the keyboard shortcuts yourself, which you can do, strangely enough. But if you want to do it, you have to go into your PowerShell and execute some commands with the PowerShell so that the settings open, because natively you don't have access to the Android settings, and as a consequence, you don't have access to Talkback settings either. So you even have to go to some very great lengths to customize what the screen reader does. I know it's a beta, and maybe this will improve with the beta as it progresses, but for the time being, this is a huge drawback. Also, with the speech synthesizers, for the time being, you have to use the Microsoft voices. You can...
So basically, they made Microsoft Voices available for Android.
I think it's a kind of bridge that is not compatible, so you won't be able to extract APK files of voices if you wanted to. It's some kind of bridge to interface with Windows. That's how I think it works.
Because actually, I would really like to see Microsoft's all of the Microsoft mobile voices imported to the Android, but yeah.
Would be great, yes, especially because they have such a broad language selection.
Yeah, and most of the voices are very small, which would make them very useful on the mobile devices.
Yeah, they could work on the
voices are
pronunciation
also
a bit.
Yeah, I also feel like the Microsoft voices are quite good.
Yeah.
Well, apparently you can install third-party voices also on this Android emulator, but no, you cannot change them in the Talkback because you can't access the TTS settings. You can somehow play the samples, but you cannot change the default voice. So maybe it's somehow, I think that didn't come across in the beta, and it will be fixed afterwards, but for the time being, that's how it looks like, sadly. So I thought personally this would be more exciting, but as I see it, this is not something I see myself using on a daily basis. Unless they partner with Google.
Me neither.
But
the more I listen to you explaining what you need to do, it's really heavy geekery stuff. So
yeah, if you actually want to make it usable, yes, it is.
Yeah,
but the idea is good.
Yes. In itself, yes, but the delivery could be a bit more polished and tailored to an everyday user. Well, but some of you tested Windows 11. How is that like? Aside from Android apps, but in general, any big changes for better, for worse? Who have you tested actually?
I'm not sure if there are big changes for us from the screen reader perspective, but there is a difference, for example, for the start menu. It's just different. It's not less or more accessible. And also the system tray is different. You can personalize it and decide which icons you would like to have in the taskbar. So you can do this through the Windows settings. Then also the accessibility is now replacing ease of access. Maybe this is something more important in general for accessibility. And what they're highlighting often is that the contrast now is much better. And it would be interesting to know, Hlynur, did you manage to test? Is the contrast really better?
I haven't managed to test it myself on my computer, even though we haven't had any problems. There's one computer here at the office that we have upgraded to the Windows 11. And yeah, I think they've moved away from the term ease of access over to more like accessibility settings.
Yeah, and right now the accessibility settings are straightforward, visible from the settings, which is good.
So the accessibility of the accessibility settings is more accessible.
Yes.
And no issues with anything, no issues with NVDA or no such thing. So everything works like it's supposed to do. Even the good old Ivona reader is still working with the Windows 11. Yeah, I think no contrast changes to the worse, at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because this was something that they were highlighting that now is much better. And of course, I cannot know this, if it is better or no. But regarding narrator, I was expecting that there will be an update in Windows 11. But if you look on the website of Microsoft, what is new, the last update on that article was in 2020. So in my understanding, I'm not a frequent user of narrator, and I was going through the options. Apparently, there is nothing new. It's just working with the operating system. And then I wonder if narrator will be updated with the system updates, or it can be updated more frequently, because if we have to wait for system updates, we will wait for some.
I'm highly doubting that there will be separate updates for a narrator, because so far we saw that it arrives with the system updates. So I don't think that in that context something will change. unfortunately.
This means no frequent updates for narrator, which is not good for us.
That's how it is for now. Maybe we will see some more info about it from this upcoming webinar, which will be soon from Microsoft.
We'll mention later.
That we'll mention later. But I've heard that there were some changes in the narrator. So they did change something since the last version, but I don't think that those changes are so frequent that they address them.
Okay, but then if they change, why don't have anything official on their page?
I get it. But, we should ask Microsoft.
Yeah.
why they didn't do that. I can say that I also tested the system for the last, let's say, 1 week. And from my point of view, I can say that the things are not where they used to be. So you need to remember the new positions of the stuff where it is. And it does take some time to find out where something is located. And I found out that all of the dialogues where you need to change some stuff in the settings especially have changed a lot since the Windows 10. So for instance, if you want to adjust your sound card settings and stuff like that, it's completely redesigned, the interface. It's not that it's not accessible, but it's redesigned. And you need to explore the stuff to find out where something is. And once everything is being spoken by the screen readers, so don't be afraid about it in terms of exploring what is there and what's not. But they quite heavily restructured the OS. That's for sure. What I also like is the fact that we came to the point that Microsoft released a new version of OS, and the other third-party screen manufacturers were working with Microsoft together. So when the operating system was released, I would say that 95% of the features were working with the new updates, and we came to the point where the operating system came out and we had it accessible, which is good to see, because at the previous versions of the operating systems, we always had to wait for a while for the manufacturers the Ebuaccess and the Vispero to update the screen readers, and you had to tweak the operating system to have it adjusted for your personal likings and stuff like that. But now it's working.
Yeah, it's working. It's working. I have to say that I am a bit disappointed. I was hoping that we will have some of the neural voices.
Yes, that was something that was even highly expected, and there were some even rumors saying that it will arrive. But no, so far we didn't see them. We might. I think that we might see them in the future updates, but so far we don't have them, and that's.
I still have a feeling they're more optimized for longer texts, not for everyday screen reader use. But maybe they would be able to do some magic to make them actually work. Who knows?
Well, if they would, make maybe mobile versions of those, it would be also good. But we'll see. Because the thing is that Microsoft, last year, it was a few months ago when they came out with this specific survey, which was targeted directly to the people who are using speech technologies. And there were sets of questions how do you like this voice, blah blah blah, what would you like to have it improved. So I don't think they put out this survey just for the fact that somebody has nothing to do. So
I hope so too.
Yeah,
they will come up with
I think that they do have something in the pipeline, and that we might expect some changes.
Maybe people wanted only eloquence.
I was actually curious about this. I guess a lot of blind people would express that they actually like the robotic voices more for productive work. And they are used to them. And I was really curious if Microsoft is going to address this somehow, if this came up highly in their results, and if they're going to address this would be quite interesting.
Yeah, that's another thing related to the speech technologies, where since Microsoft has purchased Nuance, it was like a few months ago. Nuance is also the owner of the Vocalizer TTS, and there are some rumors also that we might see some new voices coming up, and that Vocalizer voices will no longer be maintained, but it's highly rumored for now.
I think they designated a special company that has some different name now, that is delegated to this voices of Vocalizer as we knew them.
But they put out some new voices which are completely new.
Yes.
So we will see what will come up from those.
Yeah, there is a small update for Android meanwhile, and there is a Slovene voice and a Belgian French voice. So congratulations to those who might profit from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the sounds?
Yes.
Well,
there are different, completely revamped in order to make them less stressful, as they say. So they don't have really these high pitch sounds, or there is no sound that has a, I don't know, low pitch and then very high pitch. But what I read is that the designer took inspiration from an approach called calm technology. So in the calm technology, the interaction is supposed to happen between the technology and the user in the more natural way, in the periphery of the user, not in the center of the attention. And this was their approach. I mean, what they wanted to do. It is true that we have to get used to them. I think it is also getting used to the sound, because you hear a sound and you don't know what it means. You can group sounds and you can assign a different sound for an event, as it was the case before. What I'm very much disappointed, though, is that you cannot assign a separate sound for a different email account. You always have the same sound. And if you have different email accounts in your Outlook, you cannot differentiate from to which account you receive an email. And this
Why is that? I mean, you can do this in the Outlook app.
I found only the option have the sound or not have the sound.
This is weird.
Yeah, you can just turn it on or off, but you cannot change even the sound.
I actually didn't try that in Office 365. I was searching in Office 2016, and you can only tick whether you want to have the sound there or not. And then if yes, you can choose in the system sound settings of Windows. But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think you are. If I remember correctly, I don't think I remember seeing this in the desktop version, be able to choose the sound. But I remember I have done it in the Android app.
No, that's a different story. The Android allows you to change. That's
yes,
true.
iOS too.
Yeah.
Yes,
but the
so
desktop.
I think this is correct.
Yep.
And also what they did is they changed the sound depending on the visual theme that you're using. So in the dark theme, the sounds will be more echoey, or it will be similar, but a bit different, so that you can still recognize them, but they will be different. I don't know if somebody prefers sounds from the dark theme or
Fear of the dark!
or whatever.
Oh.
Yes.
It's interesting to think about this, like that the visual changes also affect the sound. I quite like the thought. It's maybe a gadget again, but I sort of like it when they start thinking that people who rely on audio or audific cues, they also like, different styles, just like sighted people like different wallpapers and different visual aspects.
But then having these really calm sounds from Windows, it make me think about NVDA sounds, for example, when you're going from browse mode to focus mode. It's really hurting your ears.
Somebody is really deaf over there, man. It's so annoying, and I was writing to them so many times, like, "Hi guys, could you please change those sound themes because they're so old and disturbing, And when can we expect? Oh, well, it's not now on our priority lists. Well, when it will be on your priority lists? Oh, man.
Yes, but you remember at some point a few years ago they changed the sound?
Yes, and
for only one version.
Yeah.
And they bring back the old ugly sounds.
Yes, it's
yes.
terrible. And if you're wearing headphones and working with headsets all day, those sounds are attacking your ears so badly. Jeez.
I don't know about you, but the startup sound of Windows 11 reminds me a lot of like Windows Millennium times.
I don't remember. I think I didn't use Windows Millennium.
Or 98, more like it's a bit of like a shorter musical tune, something like this. It's quite interesting.
I definitely can say that all of this sound scheme is very anemic in the Windows 11 because, man, I cannot distinguish. I mean, I'm a musician and I cannot distinguish between those sounds. What each sound represents. Like the classical Windows 10 sounds that we have for years now, you can distinguish what each sound does. But those sounds at Windows 11, god damn it, man, everything sounds the same.
Okay.
Yes, okay, but there is something else also which is improved. It is voice typing. So practically you select a text area and you can dictate the text. Also punctuation is included, which was not in Windows 10. Now it is in Windows 11. And you have to be connected to the internet. So if you're not connected, the dictation feature will not work. You should just press Windows H and start dictating, but you have to make sure to have the correct input language keyboard selected, because I was doing tests and my default keyboard was, or not default, my selected keyboard was Croatian, and I was trying to pronounce clearly and properly, and a garbage was coming out. So then I changed to English UK and it was perfect. And I discovered that I can also dictate in all other languages that I speak, Croatian, French, and Italian. So it was a nice discovery for me.
I think they had this feature in Office a while ago. They just introduced it in Office 365 that you can dictate into documents.
That's possible, but this one works wherever. In the browser, in Notepad, yes, wherever you need it.
Great.
Yeah.
Curiously, has anyone tested the chat feature? Apparently, if you press Windows, I think C, some light version of Teams should come up and you should be able to chat with people. I don't know, have you tested that?
I did not.
Okay.
No, I did not. I tested something else. It is the widget panel, which is supposed to be a sort of news service, but the services are only from Microsoft, so there are no third-party services there yet. And you have also a panel of widgets, or your personal widgets, like to-do list, calendar, which may be interesting. But for me, the calendar did not work. So the computer was saying the events from this account cannot be shown. So I don't know which type of account I should have, but the calendar, I couldn't sync my calendar. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is nice, but with some limitations. Maybe if in the future they allow third-party news services, it would be even more interesting. So actually I had a problem with Adobe Reader. because apparently you need to adjust the compatibility settings in Adobe Reader in order to make it work and open in Windows 11. So in the Adobe Reader properties, you select the run as administrator option and run the compatibility mode. And also I selected Windows 7 compatibility. So there are 3 features that you should tick in order to make it work. But it is quite surprising because the version that I have is Adobe Acrobat Reader DC continuous version 2021 point, I don't know, something, some numbers. So I don't have an old version, and still you have to tick these compatibility settings in the program to make it work. And initially I thought that there is something wrong with my installation, but it was not. It was just about this.
Actually, I started to have the problems with that since last few months, still when I was on 10. And I thought that this is something, that there is something wrong with my Adobe, and unfortunately there wasn't. But after I upgraded to 11, the problem came back again. So yeah, you need to a little bit reconfigure your Adobe Reader to work.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thanks for the tip, Tanya, because watch out for your software compatibility, because massive OS upgrades tend to break this, and it's good to check if you have a chance. Microsoft is also putting a lot of care to explain how the new features work for people with accessibility needs, which they, for instance, facilitate by means of their webinars. And there was already one, and there is going to be a next webinar on accessibility in Windows 11. Also, you, Tanya, read about this?
Yes, the one that was already given, or it happened already, was on accessibility features in Windows 11, a general one. If you missed it, they will upload the recording on the Microsoft channel on YouTube, so you will be able to see it anyway. And the one that is upcoming on the 17th of November, it is about using screen readers on Windows 11. Apparently, they will show narrator and third-party screen readers. They don't specify which. And I think it will be a nice one to see what they can present us.
Yeah, this is great to know that Microsoft is organizing this. Check back quite often because they organize these webinars from time to time on different products they have. And it's interesting to find out how they themselves provide it and present it. I think they even have people with disabilities even presenting this. I could see Jeff Bishop being one of the presenters for the screen reader webinar. And yeah, I know he's like a respected accessibility expert also who works for Microsoft at the moment.
For a while now, yeah.
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 So you can count that this is done really well by competent people. But that's not the only event taking place these days in connection with accessibility, and specifically with accessibility for blind and partially sighted people, because with the beginning of December, the new NVDA Con is approaching, and it's the first weekend of December, and we still will not know until the 15th of November what the topics will be. The call is still open, so if you have your own suggestions for a topic, you can also propose them. But knowing from the experience from the last years, it will be probably a lot of where NVDA is going forward, something about NVDA add-on development, something about translation. So in general, how the project is progressing and how different actors in the open source community of NVDA find themselves. But it will be also interesting to have a chance to get in conversation with the developers of NVDA and with the community at large. To see where.
So I need to pop up. I need to show up there to say to developers to change those sounds. Goddamn sounds.
Maybe you
There's
can
your
become
chance.
their new designer for them.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's always a possibility. I think it will be on Team Talk. It's always on Team Talk.
Yeah.
And you can join it. And also, the 1st and 2nd of December belongs to the site Tech Global, organized by TechCrunch. It's an annual now, because I think the first edition was last year,
Yeah.
conference on assistive technology by means of artificial intelligence. So how artificial intelligence is helping in advancing technology for blind people. Also interesting lineup of speakers. I already saw the person responsible for Seeing AI. There are also plenty of companies sponsoring that. There is Google, there is Microsoft, there is Ford, even Yahoo.
Yeah, there will be also speakers from these companies like Microsoft, Google, and Apple, Facebook, some accessibility consultancies like TQ. Also Envision I saw, Humanware, Good Maps too, and also some research centers and universities. But the agenda is not ready yet.
Yeah, it's not published yet.
And the list of speakers may be even updated, so it's not an entire list yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's for your event. So check your calendars and tune in if you have a chance.
If you didn't watch the presentations from the last one, they're still very accurate. I just checked a few in the last few days, and if you want to see what they were talking about, there are a bunch of interesting topics, even from the last year. So it's if you want to know a little bit more about what this conference is about, you can check out the older presentations, which are still being accurate.
Yeah. So, jumping on further, we have Apple. And Apple has recently made a lot of blind people angry for a couple of reasons.
They started making bad apples.
Yes, rotten apples. Yeah. Rotten apples.
Yeah.
So, first of all, what happened was that the developer of FlickType was treated in a fairly unjust way. And first, he created the keyboard FlickType. For those of you who didn't know, is the next keyboard after Flexi. Like the original developer of Flexi saw what was happening to the company. He decided to leave it and create what he initially intended to create. So, keyboard that is focused on typing accurately without looking at the screen. It was quite successful. It even managed to spring up a Apple Watch keyboard, where you could type on an Apple Watch quite accurately, also in an accessible way. And it was one of the first, I guess, or one of the most popular keyboards for the Apple Watch. Then at some point, Apple started blocking the updates. At first they said, you need to have full access permission, which means that the keyboard can access the internet and everything. And it was rejected. Then the developer explained how this works, that is needed somehow for voiceover users for this accurate prediction, probably for some machine learning or for some resources. And then it was accepted, but then again, he wanted to release a maintenance bug fix release with some improvements for voiceover also, and it was rejected for the same reason 3 years after. And the developer said it's enough, he's not going to develop this anymore if Apple is going to throw obstacles on his way all the time. And he shared a bit of a backstory where he said that Apple apparently tried to buy the keyboard off him so that they could include it as their own, or they could just own it at a discounted price. And he didn't agree. And according to him, to the developer, this is where all the trouble with rejecting updates started, with ignoring his emails started, where, yes, a lot of things started going wrong. And he decided to give up on the keyboard. He still wanted to maintain the Apple Watch portion for a bit. And then Apple Watch came out, the 7th edition, 7th series, and they introduced their own quick path, so their own typing thing on the Apple Watch, which, according to the developer, was basically a ripoff of his keyboard. And he still has, it turns out, a lawsuit going on with Apple, where he's trying to claim that, they were trying to convince him to sell his keyboard to them. He didn't agree, so they started blocking his updates and coming up with ridiculous reasons not to accept his updates. Apple said they reviewed this latest claim, that they revised again their guidelines and allowed this keyboard and even pushed the latest update through, and that they will continue to accept these updates and that he is free to submit them whenever he likes. The thing is probably still going on. It's, was quite controversial back when it first came out, because it basically showed that if Apple wants to have something, they will basically show you that they will have it. If you don't agree, they will probably try to make your life difficult or eventually build something similar. And well, there is nothing you can do unless you somehow registered for a patent. Well, your idea is now Apple's idea. The process is called Sherlocking. Sherlock used to be an app for searching for different things on your Mac. And then what Apple did was they bought the app and they introduced a feature called Spotlight that we all know that basically replaced Sherlock. So they bought the app, made it irrelevant, and introduced their own native feature to the system instead. And since then, this tradition of Sherlocking is a term that people apply whenever a big company will buy your idea, or, well, if you don't agree, they will just copy it, call it theirs, and will make in turn your idea irrelevant. The next thing what happened, because there were, of course, different comments under these articles, and some people agreed with the developer that yes, big companies do that. Others said that there is actually no proof that he was the first to come up with this kind of keyboard, that it will be hard for him to defend, that, in general, you cannot prevent innovation. But the second thing that happened, and this is very interesting, was that Oriol Gomez, he is a blind developer from Spain who produces a lot of accessible games, audio games. He tried to also update his app, and there was a maintenance update, because something didn't work with iOS 15, and he decided to submit a fix so that people can use it furthermore. And Apple rejected his update because they said that Oriol's app is too similar to many different apps that are already out there. And Oriol appealed. He tried to fight for his case. He asked the community for support. I even saw that his AppleVis post made it to the Hacker News. Hacker News is this website where people can post different links, mostly connected to tech or science or culture in some cases. And you can discuss these links on this portal. So he basically received a lot of attention from the external participants also, not just in the blindness community. And I don't know if it's a result of this or simply Apple decided to react. But they finally got back to him. First, they said, okay, we'll let your app through, but it's still not compliant with our guidelines. And then they had a conversation. And it turns out that the problem was an icon, that he used some stock icon that was from some open source library, and some many other apps used the same icon as he did. And therefore, they said it's very similar, and this triggered some of their automated systems, that thought that this app might be some kind of scam. This is very difficult for blind developers because Apple has quite stringent rules on how your app should look graphically. And it's difficult for blind people to create an actual nice looking and probably compliant with Apple's guidelines graphical UX design. So this is also why we don't have actually very many blind developers, and especially game developers, because in game you will need a lot of graphics if you want to pass the App Store restrictions. And there were even cases, I think Liam Ervin tried to do it some years ago, where he tried to release his first audio game on the iOS, and he made an audio game, so it didn't make sense for him to put any graphics there, so the screen was completely black, and for that reason Apple rejected his game. So he had to put some static image, so something would be showing. And it's bizarre. I mean, of course I understand it for some reasons, but also it makes the life of blind developers very difficult. So I think it's important to address this, that it should be changed somehow, and there should be more leniency on that. Also, in both cases, in the cases of FlickType and in case of Oriol's games, the App Store reviewers didn't seem to know a lot about voiceover. Like, in case of Oriol, they just said, we understand that your game has voiceover. Like, they clearly didn't even get that the game is accessible for the blind, that how the game works actually, how does it relate to VoiceOver. Also, in the case of FlickType, the developer says that they often show that they haven't really tested the app with VoiceOver. So they don't really know a lot about accessibility, which is surprising because, well, Apple is quite known for an outstanding commitment to accessibility. So it's surprising to see that their app reviewing team doesn't know so much about accessibility. Also, the third thing that happened that was rectified also with some recent iOS updates. Well, some Siri features that were used by many blind people disappeared. We are talking about checking your call history, the voicemail, or sending emails. And for many weeks, the top technology portals have been stormed with headlines like Apple disables features important for the blind people. Well, I guess for a lot of blind people this was important. And of course, these are like very basic features. So of course, it's not good that they took it away. But it could be much worse in comparison with what happens with these apps. And also, Apple reacted quite quickly. They responded to some of the concerns, to the emails, and they said they're going to bring it back. And apparently they did, from what I'm reading in the mailing list right now. So it's good to know. But it's, worth noting that somehow, and it's been noticed in previous versions of iOS before as well, the Siri features quietly keep disappearing for some reason. Of course, we know about like tweeting and sending Facebook posts. This was taken back because altogether Apple has pulled out from cooperating with these portals, with the social media. But also later it was made difficult for people to tune into stations with TuneIn, I think. And in general, Siri wouldn't understand a lot of commands that it understood previously. And a lot of people complain that Siri is degrading in terms of what it can and how it can understand it. So this was just like the last straw, and a lot of people got very impatient. And Apple justified it with some tests of the on-board, on-device capabilities of Siri that do not require internet connection. But nevertheless, the community reacted and Apple reinstated, which is also a positive example that they do listen and they bring it back. But these examples of the apps basically shows that the politics behind App Store or Play Store or any other store regulations and big tech companies, this is not very much a thing that doesn't concern us as blind people. It's slowly creeping into us too. And we are also, becoming sort of victims here, where apps that we also like are being blocked or for some reason hindered from being updated. And it's not just a single case, because I came across blog posts from app developers who said that, well, their apps were also blocked for random reasons. So updates wouldn't come through, or they were pulled out from the App Store or Play Store for this or that reason. They had to clarify. Sometimes it was bizarre. And one of the developers that I read from, he actually decided to set up a web app and focus on it more, because he said, this is going to last. This is not going to be removed anywhere if I don't decide to remove it. And this is not going to be prevented from being updated. So some people are already getting quite angry at the fact that, well, of course, the rules are there for a reason, and that's understandable, but sometimes it's very difficult to meet them. And even if you meet them, you're going to be thrown out anyway. So that's how it works these days. I don't know if you have any comments on this, but, it's...
Maybe just that, unfortunately, accessibility is not always taken into account. Maybe some other constraints were taken into account, like data protection or whatever, that now takes a priority above accessibility and should go hand by hand.
Yes, that's for sure. What you said also, like this lack of knowledge of people basically about how some apps work, and that apparently the people who review them are there to check how the app works thoroughly, especially if in the description you have it helps blind people, and then they don't, and then they show that they don't really know much about these things, and they'll reject it just in case. Here is to hoping that things like that will not happen anymore, or that they will happen less frequently. But seeing how political it all has become, for example with the Epic case of the Fortnite developers, the world starts to notice that sometimes these big companies are abusing their power when it comes to admitting apps. When everything is centralized and you cannot really choose your own store, it's becoming difficult.
Well, now I have to think whether should I update to iPhone or not.
Well, maybe Google will come up with something interesting too. They have made their accessibility guidelines more stringent recently on accessibility services, so you never know.
Yeah. Yes. And you're preparing your migration to iPhone. What are you thinking?
I think I'm gonna build my own smartphone with my own free store. Yes.
Okay. Pavel phone.
Yes, other Pavel phone. Other phone.
Okay.
No, but some people are thinking about this kind of things these days, so building their own open source ecosystem. But yeah, we'll have to see. Fortunately, apart from FlickType, all the other cases have been alleviated and Apple apologized. But you can see that the developers are getting angry. Also, maybe they will be able to win something by law. Especially that in the Congress in the United States, they are thinking of instating some kind of legal obligation that other app stores should be allowed on these devices so that there is no monopoly. There is some kind of shift in that direction to legally oblige big companies, big tech, not to be so monopolistic. So we'll see how far they will go with that. But Google also is doing things, and one of these things is the new Talkback update. Have you tested this, Mario?
No, because I didn't get it.
Okay.
It didn't arrive to Samsung yet.
Interesting. I haven't tested it either, but we thankfully have a quite detailed changelog of what is to come.
Uh-huh.
And
but it's not from Google, actually.
No, sadly, that's the problem. Like we got to the point where external people have to debug or find out themselves what happened and what is new and report about this. And where is Google with their press releases, with their press announcements all over the internet about, making revolutionary changes for the blind? Humor aside, dark as it may be, the only change that is probably worth of notice, maybe not the only, but the headliner change, let's say, is the fact that from now on you can switch whether you want to type by lifting your finger or double tapping on the letters.
Wow.
Yes.
That is a huge, small change, by the way.
Yeah, it's needed. It's definitely needed. That's not to say that it's not. But, Samsung introduced this in 2014. Apple had this from the beginning. Now it's there. Of course, on Android there were third-party keyboards that could do this.
Yeah.
But now we have it. And, good that it's there. Sorry to see that that is the only, or almost the only, worth mentioning change of the whole set. Apparently it works only with the latest Gboard versions. There is not much info if that's some kind of API that other keyboard developers can use.
And there are still no new languages for Braille keyboard,
input,
which is a shame.
Yes. And, there are some other changes too. You can now navigate between the different areas or zones on the screen. For example, if you have the main part of the screen, the notification the status bar, the navigation bar, before they were just announced, if you moved your finger over them, it would tell you home button, navigation bar area, something like this. Now you can actually navigate between these areas. This is in the different settings on the selector that you can have, different granularity settings.
Mm-hmm.
And also you can assign gestures and keyboard shortcuts to this. This is quite interesting because on Android a lot of things pop up and sometimes it's difficult to get there quickly enough. Like, for example, the volume pane.
Oh, yeah. Especially the accessibility volume.
Yes, this is quite tricky if you want to manipulate different volumes and you just want to quickly get there. You have to touch a specific part of the screen. Now you can touch it. You can find it with this new setting. I'm quite curious if this also works with this kind of apps that place a floating button somewhere on your screen. Like, there are some apps where you can actually use a floating button to be all the time on the screen somewhere. In any kind of corner, you can move it around. and you can always find it, and you can always tap it and do something, depending what the app is programmed to do.
Mhm.
I'm quite curious if this will work, because this could be also quite interesting. Like usually you had to find this button somewhere by browsing around on your screen, but now if you could find it like this, it would be much more convenient. Also, the settings for keyboard echo have been split into software keyboard echo and hardware keyboard echo. This was also long requested. Also, apparently now Talkback is a bit better at recognizing images. If an image has a text description, I think it is mostly in apps, in like icon apps, this will be read to you. For example, before you had an image in the YouTube app, there was just an image, and now it says image YouTube. I don't know if it stretches beyond that, if it will read things from your photos, for example, or just in apps to make the labeling a bit clearer. And there are some cosmetic changes too. For instance, now when you focus on some kind of zone on the screen, as I mentioned before, the name of the zone will be read first. So you'll hear navigation bar, home button. I think it's quite annoying.
Yeah.
It will make reading everything much longer.
But I think you can change that. It's related to this setting of the
verbosity.
Of the verbosity. So you can change that, like which kind of element do you want to be spoken? Like, do you want to have name state or state name or whatever? So there, those settings can be changed.
I hope this can be changed also. These settings, by the way, have been moved to the advanced section. They are no longer part of verbosity, but they are now in advanced. The settings of the order of reading.
And and there is one also interesting thing which I saw, and that's the announcement of the speech speed when you are now. So before, if you would change the TTS speed with the gestures, with the Talkback gestures, it would say faster or slower, but you would not know how fast it goes. But now it would. They say that it should speak percentage.
Yes,
so,
that's a nice one.
Yeah.
That's good. Also, if your TTS should crash for some reason because you're updating it, for example, Talkback will switch to the next available TTS. The only problem with that is if you want to go back to your preferred TTS, you have to restart Talkback. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So there is that. There are a couple of cosmetic changes, like moving options around, some things being announced differently, and so on, but that's it for this version. So not much, and the jump in the number version is significant because they
jumped from 9 to 12.
Yes,
and the thing is, I will tell you why. Is because now the version numbers are the same as with the Samsung Talkback versions.
Yeah.
So because for whatever reason Samsung came out with that 12 version, well, long time ago actually, since they launched Android 11, and now they merged the numbering, so basically it should be the same.
Yeah, but it's still, like, if you look at the changes, and I know the reasoning, but still, if you look at the changes, like from 9 to 12.
Yeah, it's you should have, I don't know what.
Car engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the things connected to the Talkback, there was a recent update for Vocalizer Android 2 days ago, which came out just after 2 years and 4 months of waiting. So because everybody thought that they are no longer going to maintain it, but they did come out with a new update, and now it's with a version 3.72. And there are some bugs fixed. It was not optimized for Android 11, so if you would use it more frequently, you would come to the point that all of the, for example, voice messages that you would listen on WhatsApp or Telegram or whatever would switch to your earphone, and you would not hear them anymore on your phone speaker, but at the same time your screen would get bugged and it would not work until you would not press the power button to unlock the phone, and it was annoying, but now it's fixed, so that's also good. So one thing is that if you're using vocalizers, don't be surprised if after the update your vocalizer stops talking or your phone. So you might want to switch to your alternative TTS while doing the update, because you will have to re-download all of the voices again, because they did some structuring and restructuring, so the voices are not probably kept on the same location or whatever, so they need to be re-downloaded completely.
Does the Croatian voice pronounce things better now, or is it still...
No, actually, it's not pronouncing the things better, but what I noticed is that also if you changed from the pro version to the compact voice, the speech gets much better, which is strange, because the compact voices have a little bit lower speech quality. But I have to say that I switched completely to the all compact voices, and on the phone speaker, if you are listening on phone speaker, there is not too much difference, and they're much smaller to use.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But that's not everything that is new in the Google land, and I think you can tell us, Tanya, a little bit about the new changes in YouTube. What is in store for people who would like some accessibility features on their audio?
Yeah, so YouTube announced new audio features to improve the accessibility of the videos. One is already rolled out, and it is that creators now have the possibility to have automated live captioning for live stream in English. Until now, this was possible only for creators that have more than 1,000 subscribers. Now it is available for everyone. The plan is also to cover all other languages that are currently supported by the automated captioning. And from the European languages, these are Dutch, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, and Russian. And there are also some other Asian languages. What is interesting for us is that they are planning to roll out the feature to add additional audio tracks, which is useful if you want to have a separate audio track in another language. But for us, this means that we can also have the audio description audio track if it is provided. I wonder what happens if the length is not the same, because we know that sometimes the audio description is longer. There are some pauses in between. So normally I suppose it should be synced in the same as the video. Then also, well, for the audio tracks, actually, they say that it will be available in the coming quarters, that it is available for a small group of creators. But I remember, Pavel, that you shared with us a year ago.
Yes, a video where it already worked.
It already worked, but apparently it was not really official, or again, it was limited to some users. And now they're planning to make it more official, because at that time, if you were checking the official website of Google,
there was nothing on it, yeah.
Nothing, yes. So now it will be more official. And then I think also creators will have to learn about audio description, because first step is having the functionality, and next step is really creating audio description. But of course, without the functionality, it's impossible. Okay, so then what they are planning to add is automatic translation of the caption. It is available apparently already on the desktop, but it will come on Android and iOS. And they are planning also to make available the search of the transcript, so that you can even search, that the search includes the transcript of the video, which would be nice, because we know that the transcript improves the searchability or the SEO of the content.
They're also thinking of adding the special role for people to add subtitles on your channel. If you have a channel and you would like to delegate this to somebody, now you can, which is probably a response to them switching off the community captions before. Community-based, where basically everyone could have provided captions. And yeah, it was a useful feature, but it was also abused in some cases. And this is going to roll out in the following years and quarters. This is good to know. Yes, I'm also wondering how many people will use this, especially the audio tracks. I don't think an average YouTuber will. That's the problem, because it's already a lot of work to prepare content in some case.
Yes, but I remember a few years ago I was asked how they can add an audio description on a video, and we were struggling how to do this, and one of the options was we should create a separate video, like audio only. And as we know in accessibility, this is completely wrong. It should be everything integrated into original one.
Of course.
Yes, I agree. And this is especially annoying even for accessibility campaigns or for some kind of showcase of audio description. A lot of studios or organizations that deal with audio description, they sometimes put up some videos or movies for free, and they actually have to upload two separate versions, and that's quite problematic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also looking forward to the fact that we'll be able to switch between languages, because this is also quite important. If you're learning a language and you just want to switch or choose, or even if you are an organization like the European Parliament or the EBU or any other organization that deals with international content and creates campaigns, uploading this in one go with alternative tracks is very important. So I think, yes, this is a good change, and it's sad that it's so late, but it's good that it's there.
I'm wondering when we will have also some normal guideline for people who want to create the audio tracks available. And I'm wondering if you would be able to add additionally these audio tracks to the videos that are being already on YouTube.
Normally, I suppose yes, if you are the content creator. You cannot upload to something that is already existing, but as content creator, I suppose yes.
Should be in the YouTube studio, because you can also put subtitles on afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something what you usually do, like you probably upload your video first and then you add the subtitles onto it somehow, or in the process, and I think you just will have to click on edit and you will just add the alternative tracks onto it.
Ah, nice.
That's how I think it will work, but would be sensible.
Yep.
Moving on, Vispero is out with a new lineup of their products for 2022, and that includes also JAWS 2022. You have tested this, Tanya? I think you wanted to test
I did.
Yes, and how do you find the new features?
Actually, there are some interesting features. For example, the split audio.
Oh, that's something that's been stolen.
Yes, actually, we were speaking about this a year ago. It was a software called, how it was called, Babel?
No, it was from Babbage.
Babbage, okay.
It's from that company, and they also created that audio splitter for NVDA.
And it was a quite expensive one.
Yeah.
So finally now it's integrated into JAWS. I hope we will see soon this in NVDA, because it is a quite nice one. You can route JAWS to one channel and all other sounds to the other channel. Meaning if you have headphones, you can route JAWS to left ear and all the other sounds to the right ear. If you're listening a conference and at the same time you have some notifications or emails that you would like to check, so you can route the sounds. And you can do this by pressing insert space and then V as volume and then B as balance. And then use the arrows depending where you would like to route JAWS. Also, you can, if you have headphones, you can route JAWS to default sound card of the laptop. So you can have the sound, all other sounds in the headphone, and then JAWS on the laptop speakers. So, depending on the number of sound cards, you can do different things. And I'm surprised that this didn't come earlier, but it came. Also, a nice one.
It's COVID, everybody is so slow.
I can tell you even more interesting thing, that some some headphones for gamers or headsets for gamers actually offer this natively for any app you want. They have 2 sound cards, and you can actually use one sound card as the left channel and the right sound card as the right channel. And you can distribute the sound however you like. I think SteelSeries is one of the companies that makes headsets which work like this. If you install their software, they will present themselves as 2 separate sound cards, and you can route the audio as you wish.
Okay.
That's a nice one. Okay. Then the second option that is also quite interesting is that you can now change the sound card for JAWS on the fly with a shortcut. So normally before you would need to enter into JAWS options, but if you don't have the sound, it's very difficult or almost impossible. Now you can do this again by pressing insert space and then V as volume and then C as card. And by pressing arrows, you will choose one of the cards that are available, and then pressing enter, you will confirm. It happened to me actually just before we started recording this podcast. I plugged in my microphone that was recognized as an external speaker, and then I lost the sound from the speakers.
Yeah.
So these are some of the situations when this can be really handy if you have JAWS running at that moment. So there are some nice things, and I suppose they are working also on Windows 11 compatibility. Actually, when I installed Windows 11, when I was using JAWS, I was using only JAWS 2022. I didn't try even just JAWS 2021, so I don't know if there are any differences. Probably yes, but I didn't try.
It's also worth mentioning that the support for Windows 7 and 8.1 will be dropped. So if you're still on that...
What about XP? And Internet Explorer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably removed that too. And yes, there's a migration wizard, so the import of settings from a previous JAWS version is now smoother. And there's a number of fixes. There are some improvements for Office apps.
Yeah.
It should work faster with Office 365, especially with Outlook messages.
I was saying that the Outlook is being slow sometimes with screen readers, with NVDA especially. What I found out is that you can make a separate profile in NVDA for Outlook, and then what you need to turn off in that profile for NVDA is to turn off the tables from being announced, because when you're viewing many emails with NVDA and Outlook, they are being pronounced as emails with many, many tables, while the other screen readers, such as JAWS, do not announce that.
Yeah, I also noticed with NVDA that the Excel is not the fastest on the web. It works, but you can feel kind of delay before you get where you need.
Are you talking about the last version? Because the last version has been sped up.
I mean the web one. The web
one. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
At any rate, there is also some news from Mastercard.
Mastercard, is that the master thing that you put on your hot dogs?
Mustard. No,
Mustard card.
Not mustard card. But Mastercard. They have actually made a public announcement in the recent days where they announced the release of the so-called Touch Card, which is their payment card as usual, except it has a notch and an embossing, which basically shows you what kind of card you're holding. If it's a credit card, debit card, or a prepaid payment card. And this is how they try to address the fact that all payment cards are becoming flat designed with nothing embossed on them. And yes, they trying to contribute to accessibility like this. And
that's one of the examples where the low tech becomes important.
Yes, and the headline news as well, because it was a very probably easy thing to make, but it just required somebody to think about it. Good that it's there. I hope they will not stop at that. I hope they will make it a bit more accessible too, because embossed things are also quite important. I have a Mastercard card that my bank issued to me, I think it was quite recently, 2 years ago or something. And it still has all the digits of the card number embossed. And the chip, so the part that you have to slide into the reader, is also tactile. You can feel it. So I don't see it as much as a problem. I guess it's different with different banks as well. They could emboss some more data on it, even the CVV code, the 3 digits, that could be embossed too. Maybe the expiry date, I don't know if it would fit anymore, maybe it would. And also, I don't know, in my case, the digits are very small. So you can sort of feel them, but if you don't really know the number of your card, you can't read it properly like that. It's very small, very tiny. Even like under my fingers, I can't really feel what digit that is.
No, that's for me that's impossible. I'm using, for example, Visa cards, and my fingers, because of the fact that I'm a bass player, are not that sensitive. So I feel something under my fingers, but what is it? No way, I cannot recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
I think rather the future is using smartphones or smartwatches for payment, because there all these information that you said are accessible. You can access them in your phone wallet, and then you also avoid inaccessible payment terminals.
You mean which are touchscreen?
Which are touchscreen, and you can see also the amount that you are paying, because normally we rely on the information that is given to us from the cashier. And of course, I mean, it can be whatever. So then you can read on your phone what is the amount. So I think this should be the future. For some reason in Europe, we are very much using a lot of these cards. But I heard that, for example, in Asia, in some countries, they're much more using smartphones for payment. They're not using cards anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in from my example in Poland, the adoption is quite high for this kind of novelty mobile payments. I think it was last year actually, or 2 years ago, I think, when I was explaining about the Blick system, where we have this quick codes that you can give into the terminal and you can pay just by confirming the payment in your phone, in your banking app. And it's quite common to send your friends money via phone numbers from one banking app to another.
Mm-hmm.
And also Apple Pay, Google Pay, they're being adopted, and now Blick, which is this standard again, is adopting also this contactless payments. So you can, if you don't, for some reason, like Google or Apple, being in control of your payments, you can also use the national standard, and it will work the same with NFC and everything. So they're going in that direction too. But it's also important at the same time to have this low-tech things accessible, just in case somebody is not very familiar with smart technologies, or your battery runs out, or anything happens. As a backup,
No, that is true.
yeah,
That is
it's good to have.
In Croatia, we have something already for a while. We have Braille on our ID card. So initially, it was printed for everyone, the 2 Braille letters, so that you know that this is your ID card.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, for some reason, they decided to make it available only by request.
Yeah.
So you ask if you need it. I don't know if this represented a burden or what, but they decided to keep it only for those who ask for Braille printed on the plastic.
Yeah. In Poland, it's the same. I mean, we have these letters, regardless of if you ask or not. We don't have this requirement, but they are very illegible. If I didn't know what they were, or if nobody told me, I wouldn't be able to tell.
Oh no! Here there are it's
Well
Braille, and
embossed.
it's very visible.
Yeah. Also in Austria, my disability ID is quite legible. I can definitely read the 2 letters that signify it's a disability ID. So there is no problem with that.
Yeah, but something that actually I wanted to share what I use for my cards is a wallet card. Maybe you're using the same. So you can label in Braille every card. So you don't do it directly on the card, but you label the pockets on the wallet, and you know which card it is, because today you have a card almost for every subscription. So you end up with like 15 cards, and of course you don't know which is what.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the system that I'm using for my cards.
This is good. This is handy. I didn't think about that. Card holders for everything, yeah? And labels.
Yeah, actually, I prefer not to carry my cash wallet at all because it's heavy, but really to have only the cards. And
Yeah.
I hope the future will be only the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For us, it's pretty easy to use that. I hope they'll go beyond that. I hope they'll make some more accessibility adjustments, like this what we mentioned. So maybe some either braille or bigger digits for the most important data.
Oh,
Because
come on!
even-
They will come up with another low-tech thing. If they're listening to our podcast, they will now design the card holder from Mastercard.
Yes! With braille on it already.
Yes, with braille already.
Yeah. No, but this is also important if the numbers are there embossed, because if you can read it yourself, you can also independently insert the data into your Apple Wallet or Google Pay.
True.
Yeah. So let's see if Mastercard will do more for accessibility. I'm quite curious. Also, other banks try to do it. I think ING has this policy now that they want to make a notch on a card so that you know which way to turn it in to the reader. So there is some thought put into that, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But we need more. We need accessible terminals. We need accessible banking apps and websites and
Absolutely. But this is something that is planned and actually is included in the scope of the European Accessibility Act. And I don't know if our listeners remember. So the European Accessibility Act was adopted in 2019. Next year is the transposition phase of adopting and translating the directive into national legislation. And 2025 will be the year when the law needs to be enforced. And probably we will wait for some time because I can imagine that this will apply only to new payment terminals. I don't know from that day, but there will be something because having a touch screen payment terminal, it's just inaccessible.
Probably it will be the same as with the websites. At first, it's only applicable to new websites, but in time, it means that just to give those who are already up there time to make the necessary changes, but at some point the law has to apply to everyone.
So 2045. Okay, when I go to retirement. Nice.
2345 maybe.
Yeah,
No,
seeing the Web
I hope it will
Accessibility
be.
Directive. Yeah, let's see.
I
But
hope it will
let's
be
be
sooner.
optimistic.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah,
We have to be.
2045.
If we-
Yes.
If we are not, who is optimistic?
Yeah, I mean, also you can see that this, especially the bigger companies, seem to at least show some signs of taking the responsibility. So, and the payment terminals are dependent on a couple of companies, probably. So let's hope this one will actually work out, mostly with some system updates or some other solutions.
Hlynur, are you included in the EAA?
Iceland is not. No, we are working on getting the European Accessibility Directive fully implemented, but the European Accessibility Act is further down the line.
That's a pity.
Yeah, it is. Believe you me.
Okay.
So pretty much the only legal thing that we have, is basically nothing. We can say, what you're doing is wrong. So shame on you. But they're currently not officially breaking any laws yet.
Breaking the law.
Yes. Speaking of different laws and policies, we of course know that websites should be accessible, and so do know a couple of other companies that come up with the so-called accessibility overlays. And something I came across
Again?
Yes. Something I came across recently. There is this company called Userway, and they made a promo video for themselves, and they employed Susan Bennett, the actress who is behind the original Siri voice, as the ambassador sort of their new latest campaign, where she is shown assisting people with different tasks, like telling them how much calories a certain product has or which way to go. And then she says, yeah, but this is only as much as I can do because there are millions of disabled people worldwide who cannot be helped by me because the websites are not accessible. But you can help by placing just one single line of code.
No!
Crap it.
Yeah, and I think they actually selected a voice that is very well familiar to blind people. That is a sort of like the leading voice of the most used product by blind people worldwide, by the iPhone. Because you can also use this voice, I think, in VoiceOver.
I mean, brilliant marketing. I'll give them that.
Yes.
But damn it.
Yes. And this kind of example, and it's sad to see that this still carries on, because a lot of people will, somehow believe it and go for it, and we actually see what happens when they do. So.
Yeah. Well. Beep.
Yes.
So let's just hope this doesn't have to go further than it needs to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see the difference between this user way. Is it called user way?
Yes, user way. Mm-hmm.
And
Accessibility
thing, which was actual few months ago.
Yeah. No, it's actually problematic. I think Userway is the one that is quite prominent in Poland. Like, at least from the top 100 websites that Accessibility detected, being from Poland.
Yeah.
Userway was installed on all of them that were there in this top 10, top 100. Well, sad to see, but we'll find also other advocacy in other figures of prominence and authority who will say that, hire, for example, a blind person to check if your website is really accessible.
Yeah.
Install a free plugin and check the accessibility of your website. Already with this, we can see issues and work on this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, of course, second step would be really working manually. But already by installing not only installing a simple plugin, you have the Lighthouse included in Edge, Chromium, or Chrome browser. So you just open development tools and you find out what are the issues.
Yeah.
Well, people have to open stuff.
Yeah. Probably they're, first of all, not aware.
No.
But how come that they're aware about this one-line solution and they're not aware about real solutions?
Marketing.
Yeah.
It is marketing, but it's at the same time, it's even more sad to see that nobody from the... I would say, first of all, nobody from the organizations who are dealing actually with the accessibility didn't sit down with Susan Bennett and explain her some stuff, how the stuff actually work. Because, I mean, come on. I mean, we understand that she received who knows how many millions for this campaign. But still, I mean, if you would understand how some things actually work, I wouldn't take those millions. But okay, it's me.
Yeah, we don't know how much, so before we jump into claims,
Well, it wasn't free, man. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Even
but,
for free,
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, so there is that, and it's sad to see, and let's hope that the real accessibility. Please stand up. Please stand up.
Yeah.
As we talked about, of course, earlier, there is probably good intentions. I mean, bad solutions have come from good intentions before.
Yeah.
Just that being said.
Yeah, well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Doesn't mean I recommend the product, though.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we arrived at the end of this episode, believe it or not.
With this bitter end.
Yeah. It wasn't very optimistic, but the optimistic thing is that we still have a demo for you. And this is from Hlynur, who actually interviewed developers in Iceland who created a solution for those of us who would like to play some tabletop games. Hlynur, what is it about?
It's quite interesting, actually. Just started with this one guy whose son is visually impaired or almost blind, and the family were quite used to playing top board games, but he felt like that he wasn't exactly being equal to the others. Like you can imagine if you would have to have your cards read out for you by your opposition player. So he did the probably most Icelandic thing in the world. He just took it into his own hands and has created this app that is meant to make board games more accessible. So it's quite interesting.
Okay, we'll probably find out more about this in the interview. So
yeah, don't want to spoil too much though.
Yes, keep listening, and if you have any queries and questions, you'll definitely find out also ways to contact the developer of the solution. And yeah.
EBU Access Cast interview.
Hey guys, Hlynur here. I have an excellent guest with me right now, Ísak Jónsson. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, you have been working on a new app making board games accessible to the blind. Could you tell me maybe a bit about how it works?
Yeah, this is an app called Retin 8, which is used. It's an app. You just open the app on your phone, and then if you have a game that you wish to play, and you have the game box with you, you use the barcode on the game box to identify the game that you are going to play. And when the game has been identified, then the cards that belong to the game can all be described by the app to the user.
Okay, so the app uploads all the info about the cards of the game once you scan the barcode.
Well, yeah, once you scan the barcode, yes, the app retrieves all the data connected to that particular game, and you have like descriptions of all the cards and even tokens and things that belong to that game. So then and it doesn't matter if it's text on the card or small like symbols or things like that. This can all be described by the app, because basically what the app is doing is it knows that the card you're holding is the card you're holding.
Yeah,
and so you can just write then a description of the card in whatever language you want.
Yeah, once developing.
Yes.
So the symbol or the fraction of text that you use to identify each card and each token, it must be unique to that single card or token.
Yes. That's the technical way of doing it. Yes.
Okay. Does that mean that it can't be used for every board game in the world?
No, it needs to have support. It needs to have. You need to build support for every board game into this app for it to do its magic. Because and this is the only way to do it, I think, because the cards it's very hard to make something that generally understands cards, because they are so different.
Okay. Now I've never heard of a project like this before. Is there any competition in this market?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything on the market that does this apart from this. I don't think it has been done.
So what made you start all this?
Well, the fact that I have a son who is legally blind, and we had been playing board games at home, and I began to feel that he was not, unequal to us, the other people playing, because if you had to describe the cards to him, to help him read text or things on the cards, then you immediately knew what cards he was holding, which is, of course, when you're playing board games, that's very often not desirable that somebody who's playing against you is
knows your hand.
Yes, exactly. So this began to annoy me, and I began to look for solutions to this, and I tried some of the solutions that are out there that are, like readers that you can make them show text to the camera and it tries to read it for you.
Yeah, OCR.
Yeah, OCR, yes. But they were not working that well because, the cards are very often designed. You don't have like a black Helvetica font on white background on the card. You have various designs. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't actually, it was working terribly. Apps like that didn't work at all. And of course, when it comes to symbols on the cards, that of course, that's impossible for an OCR app to know what that is.
Yeah.
So I just, saw that the product didn't exist in the market, but at the same time I realized that the technology existed because you just have to make the phone recognize the card. And this can be done with either, recognizing a piece of text or with image recognition. Okay. And once the phone recognizes the card, you can just, as I said, you can, make it, describe it in very accurate detail in whatever language you want,
Okay. So you have how many, so this is quite a bit of work for every board game that you would need to support.
Yes.
Some that you would manually need to first
yes.
identify.
It's of course very varied work because they are, some board games are very complex while others are more simple, but yet generally it's a lot of work. The current version has support for over 100 board games, so there's quite a bit of work been put in already, and these are very popular games and very varied games, everything from Monopoly and Cluedo and things like that to some newer and popular board games like Seven Wonders and Horrified, Bang the Dice Game, and some games like that.
Okay, and so you need to first identify the piece of text or symbol that you would need to be unique to be able to describe the card. Then you will need to write and decide the text description for each card.
There is we basically just have a database where we are, where we have the description for every card, and every card is given its unique identifier and the piece of text that is used to identify it.
Okay. This sounds like a lot of work. So when did you start? How long have you been doing this?
This has been going on for about a year now, with along with work, other work. I've been working with a German programmer called Marcus, and we have been working on it sort of on and off for a year.
Okay. And have you been just doing this as volunteers? Have you gotten any grants, or how have you been financing this project?
This
so far?
We have gotten some. We've got some grants from a fund here in Iceland called Stuðningur til sjálfstæðis. I'm wondering about the English name of that.
Support for independence.
Support for independence. Yes. There's a very the grants we got from that are basically what allowed this to happen, because they are paying for programming is very expensive, and of course this is a lot of work. So those grants are what allowed this to happen, and then we've also gotten some more funds from like memorial
funds, like when people.
Yes,
people die and leave some money for special projects.
Exactly. So yeah.
Okay, but what is the plan for the future? You told me earlier that you were in beta stages both on Android and iOS.
Yes.
And so can anyone go and get the app right now and
it's kind of an opt-in beta, so if you just contact me, then I can send you the link, or if you have test flight on your iOS, then you can then we can add you to the beta program.
Okay. We will definitely leave your contact info anyway for people to be able to reach you or try out the beta in the description.
Yes, that would be rare. It would be excellent because we need a lot of testers. This is fundamental too.
Awesome. So, what is the next step? Where do you see this app going in the future?
I would like to, next year I would like to steer this app toward being a sustainable, thing that can be worked on without having to depend on income from other work, And for that, I would like to see some sort of crowdfunding and perhaps, some sort of end up with some sort of subscription model for it, where people just subscribe to it, because this is an ongoing thing this is an app that's never finished, because there are new board games released every day.
Yeah.
So
you told me it's around 5 board games released every day.
It feels like that. Yeah. Perhaps at least,
Okay, well, this surely sounds awesome, and I'm sure that our listeners would love to get a short demo of how it works. You have brought with you a couple of board games.
Yes, I have here with me, for example, there's a game called Horrified, which is a cooperative game, which games like that have been very popular as of late, where you are not exactly playing against other people, you are collaborating as players to beat the game. And you have to fight creatures like Dracula and Frankenstein and the creature from the Black Lagoon, all while some silly villagers are running around the board and you have to save them. And if they kill too many of them, then you lose. Or if they,
You can now scan a barcode of a game.
So here I have the barcode for that.
You are now ready to play Horrified. You can show a card, hero badge, villager mover, or item token that you wish to identify to your phone camera.
And here I have a card that is from the monster deck, which you have to draw at some points in the game.
Thief. Items. Place 2 items on the board. Event. Place the invisible man at the location with the most items. Discard all the items there. Monster Strike. The mummy, the creature, and Frankenstein move 1 space and attack with 3 dice if they reach a hero or a villager.
Okay, this is full of information.
This is full of information, yes. There's a lot of information here. And this is, most of it is explaining what little tokens, little symbols on the card say. The least of this is the text.
I can see this save a lot of marriages.
Exactly. And here in this game we also have items that are lying around on the board. They can also be identified.
Crucifix. This item should be placed in the church. It is a yellow item with a strength of 4.
Yes, and they could also identify the silly villagers. Here is a villager mover, and I will show this to them.
This is Renfield. He wants to get to the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to help him get to the hospital.
He shows up. Actually, the villagers show up in the monster cards. They say, place this villager there. And then you need to get him to another place on the board to save him.
So like challenges.
It's like challenges. And of course the monsters, they get attracted to him and we will chase them. And there's a lot of things going on.
Okay, so this basically means that you can play this board game without needing someone to read your cards for you and know what's on your hand. So you can be like by yourself playing against others, even though you might need some help like moving things around the board itself.
Yeah, there is the boards are something that we have not very much started to support, although there's one board game called Tapestry, which is a board game that is similar to a computer game called Civilization, if anyone knows that. And Tapestry, you are building like the best civilization with technology and military and things like that. And that is the only board game where we have actually put in some support for the game board itself. because the method we were using it worked quite well, while for just showing the spaces, and explains what the spaces do.
Okay.
So
what was the name of that board game? Can you spell it for us?
Tapestry, Tapestry.
Tapestry. Okay.
Tapestry, yes. Tapestry. I think it's pronounced tapestry.
Yeah.
It's like a carpet, but
yeah. Okay, so this looks very, very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So in a few months, what will you be hoping to do? Support more games? Like, do you have a web page or an info page where people can they find somewhere a list of all the board games that this app supports currently, or?
We don't actually have a web page up for that yet, but I can give you a list. That's no problem.
Okay, so we could share with our listeners a list of games that it supports. Okay, that would be awesome. I think many might be very, very excited about this.
Okay, and of course, if you have suggestions for games that you would like to be added, then we can look at that, of course.
Okay.
If it's technological, if the current technology allows it, because the current technology does not allow us to support every game, because sometimes it's just difficult. We have not yet started doing image recognition, but that is something we will do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's today that's a very processor hungry thing.
Yeah.
So we are envisioning that in 4 or 5 years that might be more feasible to be using image recognition for this.
Yeah, it's better if your battery can survive a whole Monopoly game.
Exactly.
I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, Isak. And if you guys have any further questions or would like to try this out, you will find Isak's contact details in the show notes. So thank you very much, Isak, for coming, and take care.
Thank you.
That is it from us for this episode number 34, proudly presented by us. And of course, if you have any kind of questions and queries, feel free to contact us as well. Send us your questions, send us your remarks, perhaps suggestions for topics that you think we should discuss. And yes, enjoy this listen. We hope you did. And that's it from now. So take care, everyone. Until the next episode, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to EBU Access Cast. If you want to contact us, you can send us an email to ebuaccesscast@